Did you know that just one single severely cold winter night could completely wipe out years of growth on your beautiful Mediterranean fig tree? It's a heartbreaking reality for a lot of gardeners. But welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the absolute best practices for winterizing your fig trees. We're going to take you from a complete beginner to a seasoned expert, ensuring your tree not only survives the frost, but thrives and gives you an incredibly sweet harvest next summer. Let's get right into it.
I want you to think about this specific, terrifying number for a second. -18 degrees Celsius. If you've ever wondered exactly how much cold a fig tree can take, well, this is the dramatic threshold. At -18, an unprotected, mature fig tree will freeze completely down to the ground. Literally all of its above-ground wood is lost. And honestly, even before it gets that cold, say around -10 to -12 degrees, unprotected young plants can suffer catastrophic damage. That's exactly why we're here today, right? We want to make sure your tree never, ever experiences this kind of devastating thermal shock.
So here's our quick roadmap for today. Number 1, why do figs freeze? 2, the necessary materials for protection. 3, step-by-step winterizing. 4, the hidden danger of rodents. And finally, number 5, uncovering and common mistakes.
Okay, section 1. Why do figs freeze? Let's talk about the biology of the cold.
The absolute key here is understanding a process called lignification. Basically, it's a biochemical process where the plant deposits lignin into its cell walls. This essentially takes soft, green tissue and turns it into hard, woody tissue, which pushes out free water in the process. But here is the problem. Young fig trees, especially those under 3 years old, often have hormonal imbalances that promote rapid green growth really late into the season. And that delays lignification, so their tissues stay completely full of free water. When the temp drops to just -4 or -6 degrees Celsius, that water crystallizes into ice, literally bursting and destroying the plant's cell membranes from the inside out.
Now, your specific variety completely dictates your risk level. For example, if you're growing a cold hardy variety like the Mishurinska 10, that beast can resist wood damage all the way down to -19 degrees. But if you have highly decorative varieties, like Panache or Dalmatian, they start suffering wood damage at just -14 degrees. So knowing your variety is absolutely step 1, because those more sensitive types demand serious, non-negotiable winter protection, especially when they're young.
Moving on to section 2, materials for protection. What you actually need. Now listen, this is where so many gardeners make a fatal mistake. You absolutely have to use breathable materials. Things like agrotextile, burlap, straw, or reed mats. These are your best friends. You must avoid non-breathable plastics or nylon. If you wrap your tree in plastic, you're creating a deadly greenhouse effect. Once the winter sun hits that plastic, it heats up all the trapped moisture inside, and since it can't breathe, condensation just rapidly builds up. Best case scenario, you get severe fungal infections like gray mold. Worst case, your tree's bark literally rots right beneath the cover. Always choose breathable materials.
But look, having the right materials is only half the battle. Timing is everything. Beginners tend to panic and wrap their trees before the very first frost. Please, do not do this. You need to wait for 3 critical things to happen. First, wait for total leaf drop. Second, you actually need to allow 2 to 3 early frosts to hit the uncovered tree. I know, letting it freeze sounds counterintuitive, but this exposure to moderate cold is exactly what triggers the plant to enter true physiological dormancy. If you wrap it up too early, you're just trapping active moisture and heat, and mold is going to destroy the plant under the cover.
If you aren't completely sure if your tree is dormant yet, here's a really cool, actionable expert tip: the sap flow test. Just grab your pruning shears and snip the tip off a small terminal branch. Then, watch the cut carefully. If there's no milky white latex flowing from the wound, that means the tree has fully stopped its active sap flow. It's officially in true dormancy, and you are totally cleared to start winterizing.
Section 3, step-by-step winterizing, covering your fig tree. Let's get into the actual work.
Here is your chronological roadmap. Step 1, prune away any exceptionally thick, stiff branches that you just won't be able to bend without breaking them. Step 2 is incredibly important for the root system. You're going to apply a heavy mulch layer, about 10 to 15 centimeters of dry leaves or wood chips right at the base to protect that root collar. Step 3, gently bend the remaining flexible branches down toward the ground. This creeping or bending method is actually highly recommended for colder regions, like northern Bulgaria, for example, because it keeps the branches right near the soil's thermal mass. And finally, step 4, wrap the whole bent structure securely with your breathable agritextile or burlap and pin it down tight so those harsh winter winds can't tear it away.
Section 4. The hidden danger, rodents. Or as I like to call it, a 5-star winter hotel.
Think about what you've just created here. You've built a dry, warm, dark, heavily insulated structure out in the freezing cold. You haven't just built a winter cover for your fig, you've basically built a 5-star winter resort for hungry rodents. Mice and voles actively seek these covers out. Once they get inside, with absolutely nothing else around to eat, they will chew completely through the bark and the cambial layer of your fig tree in a full ring. That cuts off the plant's entire vascular system. By the time you unwrap it in the spring, the whole top of the tree is completely dead and dried out. It's devastating.
So how do we outsmart them? Well, here are some expert solutions to really elevate your gardening game. Right before you seal up the cover for winter, put some safe deterrents near the base of the trunk, inside the wrap. A fantastic method is using small perforated plastic cups filled with naphthalene. The strong smell is an amazing repellent. Or if you want to go a more natural route, cotton balls soaked in heavy peppermint oil, eucalyptus oil, or even a mild ammonia solution work absolute wonders. You can also loosely pack steel wool around the immediate base, because rodents absolutely refuse to chew through it.
All right, Section 5. Uncovering and common mistakes. Waking the tree up.
So when exactly do you take the covers off? The magic threshold to keep an eye on with your local weather forecast is -3.8 degrees Celsius, which is right around 25 degrees Fahrenheit. You should only start the unwrapping process when nighttime temperatures consistently stay above this mark. Depending on where you live, that usually happens around late March or early April. Whatever you do, do not jump the gun on the very first warm day in February.
And when you do finally uncover it, remember, it is a gradual timeline, not a single event. Ripping the cover off all at once is a massive shock to the plant. It exposes that tender bark to intense, deadly UV shock from the spring sun and leaves it totally vulnerable to unexpected late frosts. Instead, follow this schedule. In mid-March, just open the top slightly to ventilate it. A few days after that, remove the heavy internal insulation, like the straw or leaves. Leave the primary agrotextile layer on for another 3 to 5 days so the plant can adjust to the light. Finally, remove everything on a cloudy day and finish up with a sanitary pruning to cut away any dead tips.
Real quick, before we wrap up, the rules are just slightly different for those of you growing figs in pots or containers, because roots in a pot freeze incredibly fast. You want to leave the pot outside until the first frost so the tree drops its leaves and enters dormancy. Then, move it into an unheated, dark room, like a garage or a basement, that is kept strictly between 0 and 8 degrees Celsius. And here is the golden rule. Water it only once a month and with just a tiny amount of water. Overwatering during dormancy is the #1 cause of root rot, hands down. Finally, don't move it back outside until your spring nights are safely staying above 1.7 degrees Celsius. So, as we conclude this explainer, I've got a question for you. What specific fig variety are you growing in your backyard? And based on what we've talked about today, are you actually fully prepared for that first frost? Take stock of your materials right now, before the cold sets in. And just a quick reminder, while this guide provides a highly effective scientific foundation for winterizing, you should always factor in your own local microclimates and definitely consider chatting with a local gardening expert if your area experiences highly irregular winter weather. Prepare your materials, respect the dormancy process, and I promise you, your fig trees are going to reward you with an incredible harvest next season.